proven that he can.
The Arizona game, Boswell didn't have a very good game. Larson didn't. Were those points of emphasis of things you wanted to take away defensively? And if so, what does it really mean? Because usually we talk about it with Edie. Is a team going to try to take them away or let other people beat them?
Yeah, Boswell and Love were the two guys that we thought that could go make individual plays. We knew how streaky Love was. We played, against him when he was at North Carolina. We had Boswell in USA Basketball. He made our team last summer, and so I watched him play, and I knew how talented he was, and that he can really get things going. He can make deep pull-up threes. He just never got going, and obviously Love did. But no, Larson's a good shooter, but he's not a high-volume shooter. He's never been a guy that, averages 2.5 threes a game. He shoots a good percentage, but he only averages 1 make a game. So, we wanted to be with him. We knew he was a good right-hand driver and a passer more than anything, but just trying to bottle up Boswell, he never really got into the rhythm of the game, so to speak.
Did your offense struggle with their zone, or was it just a coincidence that they made their run?
Yeah, Zach gets 3 post-ups. And what spoils you is that a lot of times when we run stuff, he gets 3 dunks. Like, you know what I mean? And sometimes, like, when he makes post-ups, you take it for granted like it's the same thing. And a 10-foot jump hook is not the same as a dunk. So we get him those jump hooks through the zone, and he doesn't make it. So it makes it feel worse than anything. Fletcher split the defense one time, and Braden put the ball at his ankles another time. And besides that, we got really pretty good looks. But it doesn't feel that way, right? As you watch a game, it doesn't feel that way.
There were 2 open threes in that stretch, too.
Yeah, and so, you can't get upset. You can't say, okay, what we're doing's wrong, because we would always take those shots from Zach, and we would always take those open threes. And then Braden made a 3, and then Lance made a huge 3. Zach got a couple baskets through it also. But like you said, it didn't feel that way. When you go back and watch it and you say, okay, there was 10 things that we ran, 8 of them were successful in terms of getting a good shot. Those 2 turnovers weren't. So it's one of those things where it's a little difficult to prepare. You got to prepare for things, but if you just want to prepare for everything, you're going to practice for 4 hours. You're going to say, well, what are you working on? Full court run and jump, man-to-man defense. You're like, they don't do that. Well, because they could. And you say, well, work against a 1-3-1. Well, they don't do that. Why are you working on that? Well, they could. Well, work against a 3-2 zone defense that you haven't seen in a long time. Well, why would you work against it? You haven't seen it. Well, they could. You could just keep going in the game of basketball. There's a lot of things that people don't do that you're not going to prepare for because they don't do it. And so that was something that I thought we did a pretty good job. I didn't think we did a great job, but it's also you're always learning as a coach. Like what should they do? The one thing I thought they would do is put Braden to his left hand, but they hadn't done that the whole year. But I just said, man, he just wore the right side of the court out against Alabama. I was like, man, if I was going against this, I would do that. And then I talked about what we're going to run for zone play before the game. I said, because I felt we could have some success offensively and they could go to a zone even though they hadn't showed one. So those were the 2 things that I said before the game that I thought, we could possibly see that we haven't seen so far. And they did put him to his left hand, and he had a lot of success going to his left hand. So his pull-up going left is about the same going right. So in his passing, I think he would prefer to go that way, but he did some really good things going left.
Just this game tomorrow night, you saw what happened in the Big Ten yesterday. Indiana and Maryland really struggling.
Right.
At home. It's kind of that time of year.
Correct.
Anything you want to see these next 2 games from your team from an intangible perspective?
Yeah, I think more than anything, just playing with purpose. Teams go and they play some high-level games. Indiana plays Kansas. We play Arizona. It's hard to get back up for that game, but that's your job. That's what you have to do as a coach. You got to get guys ready to play. You got to get guys to play with a focus and take care of the basketball. I think that's more than anything. Just keep getting quality shots. That helps set your defense. But yeah, it's that time of the year, right? Go on, Christmas break, tomorrow at 9 p.m. That's when you go on Christmas break. Don't go on Christmas break too early. But it's a tough deal. It's a tough deal for a lot of people. But it's the same for everybody.
And you're mentoring young coaches like Sasha, like PJ.
Yeah.
How much leeway do you give them, and how much kind of back and forth or overstepping them is there?
Yeah, we discuss things you'll get things when the zone came in the game we're definitely discussing what to go to and what to run. We ran a couple things that we shouldn't have and that was my fault. With it, it's something that's been really successful for us, but it's not been real successful with this group. But we just haven't had a high volume of people zoning us yet. And so like you're kind of feeling your way through it. And I think that's probably an important piece of anything. It's just because it's been successful before doesn't mean it's going to be successful with this group. But you want to spend time doing it. You want to spend time, giving a different look with it. But no, Sasha and PJ have done a great job. And Sasha really takes the out of bounds and the side out of bounds. And so he locks into that piece of it. So like Arizona puts their 5 on the ball and they switch everything. So it's a little bit different. So now you're running things that you got to go over for like 3-4 days. It's different with different names and different calls. So you got to make sure everybody knows what they're doing. PJ obviously has a Rolodex of stuff that we've accumulated through 30 years of coaching that we've really tried to shift towards our personnel. We're running a lot more ball screen stuff now with Braden than we have in the past. Obviously, Zach plays a lot out of the post, and we have different stuff for shooters. What happens a lot is it's just hard to run stuff for a lot of people, especially with what you're running is working and being successful.
Do you get a feel for, you talked the other day about, talking about Fletcher, just some guys understand basketball. Some of these guys that come through here, like that guy's going to make a really good coach, or PJ's here and Sasha's here. When they're done playing, this is the path they should probably go down.
Yeah. It's two things. You have to have a good feel. You got to have knowledge. You got to know what's going on. But then you got to be able to communicate that. Sometimes good players have a real tough time with people that aren't as good as they were. It's frustrating to them why they can't pick up on something naturally that they could just, do in their sleep. So I think that's why you'll see some really good coaches sometimes really good players struggle as coaches because they don't have the patience for it. So I struggled as a player in college, and I think that's probably one of my number one strengths is I do have patience. And not always. Sometimes I lose my cool, but I do have a great
Coach Katie, right?
Yeah, exactly. I do have a great deal of patience. So just it's a big pet peeve of mine for everybody to be on the same page, everybody to know what they're doing. And because I think once you know what you're doing, that's when you can really play hard and take off, and your competitive juices can come. When you're not quite there yet, you kind of get stagnant, or you don't have that same pop as you would if you were, you knew everything.
How much has the synergy between what Edie can do as a screener, the space he creates for Smith and Lawyer, and the way your guards have developed over this last year
Right.
and a half?
Yeah, it really helps because, first of all, he's massive, and he creates, big time angles, coming off of screens. But the other thing is that certain people simply don't want to become detached from him. So the people that go in that deep drop are detached from him. And so they allow his dives to be on the run. So that's where you're going to see more of that action that we had against Alabama, right? Where you're seeing him catching the ball, diving, and he's kind of like making a different play, right? Mm-hmm. When you see people come out and hedge and get real aggressive and he dives, you're going to see more people pulling in to take that away. And then the ball's going to go away from you. The people that start up and then they drop, they're going to be in between. And I think the one thing that they want when they're up, especially when they flat hedge, is they don't like to get detached. So you just got to drive the basketball and make him stop you. And then when he stops you, now you got your flip up lob, you got your spray out 3 on the opposite side. A lot of things will open up. But a lot of them get scared about it because once they do stop the basketball, even if we shoot it, now you just put the second biggest guy or the third biggest guy on the court on him in a box out. And that's what we always tell that guy. If you're not going to play off of 2 feet, absolutely don't get your shot blocked. Because, I know it's crazy, right? No one's trying to get your shot blocked. But you'd be surprised, hey man, just get it up. We want you to make it, but put that high and soft off the backboard because those soft misses he normally gets.
Hey Coach, you saw Indiana struggle last night, especially after playing Kansas, a big game. How do you avoid a big game hangover, as they call it, after beating a team like Arizona?
Yeah, just play with a purpose more than anything. Like stick with what have gotten us here in terms of taking care of the basketball, rebounding, understanding their players and their strengths, and be focused on Jacksonville. Don't be focused on anything else. That's great that you had a big time game against Arizona. That's super, but that's over. You got to move on. You got to move to the next game.